I'm 58 years old. I truly thought a movie night with my son might finally soothe the cracks forming in our family. But just as the wine glass reached my lips, my phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. Don't drink that. Just smile and leave. Was someone trying to protect me or warn me about my own flesh and blood? My name is Camille Hartley. I'm 58 years old, and I've learned that life isn't about grand gestures, but about the small, solid things you can hold. For me, that's the weight of a soldering iron and the sharp, clean smell of flux. I manage the warehouse over at Silverline Fixtures, a job that pays the bills in our little mountain town of Cedar Ridge, Colorado. But my real work, my passion, happens in the converted garage of my cabin, where I piece together stained glass windows. I love the way the light changes when it's forced through colour. It's been 9 years since my husband, Mark, passed. 9 years I've spent paying down the mortgage on this cabin, the one nestled just against the tree line where the asphalt gives way to gravel. This April, I made the final payment. I paid it off myself. Every cent. The deed is locked away, and the only name on it is mine. My son, Dylan, is 33. He's married to Sabrina, who is 31, and they have my granddaughter, Lucy, who is 9. Dylan is restless. He's always been. He's currently launching what he calls a vacation property startup. It sounds impressive, but it follows a long string of short-term jobs, a sales gig here, a logistics attempt there. He's always chasing the next big thing that will finally let him live the life he feels he deserves. Sabrina, his wife, seems to encourage it. She's meticulous, always put together. She never takes off that sleek, smart bracelet, the one that tracks her heart rate and sleep patterns, constantly checking her metrics on her phone. I love my son, but last year was hard. They needed a place to stay while transitioning, so I offered them the spare rooms. 8 months. It started small. The electric bill suddenly tripled, the water heater running constantly. My tools in the workshop were borrowed and not returned, left out to rust. Then it became about boundaries. I came home one afternoon to find Dylan installing one of those Loch Ness smart locks on his bedroom door. In my house. He insisted it was just for their privacy, controlling the access entirely from an app on his phone. The real fight started over a power of attorney document. Dylan brought it up casually one night over dinner. Something about making it easier for him to handle my affairs if I got sick, or to help manage the property taxes. The wording was vague, far too broad. I'm a warehouse manager. I read fine print. I refused to sign it. The tension in this small cabin became so thick I could barely breathe. When they finally moved into their new apartment downtown last month, the silence they left behind felt like a recovery. I'm not paranoid, just careful. Under my heavy workbench, bolted to the floorboards, is a small fireproof safe. It holds the cabin's deed, the insurance policies, and a single USB drive. That drive contains itemized scans of every utility bill from those 8 months, every text message I saved about the bills, and a photo of that power of attorney document I refused to sign. My neighbour, Mr. Boone, adds to my caution. He's 70, retired from the local police department, and misses nothing. He's stopped me by the mailbox twice this month. Camille? He'll say, his voice a low rumble. You getting late-night visitors? Saw a dark pickup idling by your driveway around 10 p.m. last Tuesday. Not one of ours? I'd assured him I wasn't expecting anyone. which is why the invitation for tonight felt like an olive branch, a movie night, at their new place. Dylan called, sounding more cheerful than he had in months. Just us. Mom. Like old times. We want to celebrate the startup finally getting off the ground. An hour later, my phone pinged. A picture message from Sabrina. It was a bottle of expensive-looking Pinot Noir sitting on their new granite countertop. The text read, "Got this just for you, celebrating the new venture." My gut tightened. Sabrina knows I prefer Sauvignon Blanc, but I pushed the feeling down. I wanted this truce. I wanted to see Lucy. I arrived at 7. The apartment was nice, sterile, smelling of new paint and plug-in air fresheners. Dylan was busy with the streaming service, and Lucy ran to show me a drawing. Sabrina was in the kitchen, the Pinot already open and breathing. "Go on. Sit down. Camille?" She smiled, handing me a heavy, long-stemmed glass. "Let me get Dylan's." I sat on the new leather sofa, the dark red wine cool in my hand. I was about to take that first sip, to wash away the memory of the past 8 months. That's when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, expecting a notification from my weather app. It was a text message. The number was blocked. Just a string of digits I didn't recognize. The message was only 8 words. "Don't drink the red glass. Just smile and leave." My blood ran cold, freezing me to the sofa. I stared into the glass. Sabrina was right there, smiling, handing Dylan his own glass. I looked back at mine. The surface of the dark wine wasn't still. A thin, oily layer of tiny bubbles clung to the rim, different from the wine in Dylan's glass. I raised it halfway to my face, pretending to admire the colour, and caught the scent. It wasn't just Pinot. Under the fruit, there was a faint, bitter smell, like damp herbs or crushed pills. My phone vibrated again in my pocket. I kept my eyes on Sabrina, sliding my hand in to feel the phone. I didn't dare look down. I palmed it, pressing the side button just enough to light the screen inside my pocket, angling it so I could glance down for 1 second. Another message from the same unknown number. I saw what they put in it. "Don't confront them. Go to the bathroom and then leave." My heart hammered against my ribs. The word was plural. They put something in it. "Everything okay, Mom?" Dylan asked, settling into the armchair opposite me. "Perfect," I said. My voice was surprisingly steady. "Just admiring this glass. It's lovely." "Sabrina picked those out," he said, taking a large sip of his own wine. Sabrina sat on the sofa, too close to me. "Drink up, Camille. We have so much to celebrate." I needed a way out. My eyes darted around the room. On the end table next to my sofa, there was a small, narrow vase holding a single, sad-looking silk orchid. It was almost empty, just a splash of water in the bottom. I smiled at Sabrina. "It smells wonderful." As I brought the glass up, I let my wrist angle awkwardly. Oh, goodness. I tilted the glass, not onto the floor, but over the small, decorative tablecloth on the end table, spilling a dark red splash. How clumsy of me. I am so sorry. "Sabrina? This new table?" "It's fine," she said, her voice a little too high. "Don't worry. I'll get a cloth." No, I've got it," I insisted. "It's my mess." While she was distracted, moving toward the kitchen, my hand moved in a single, fluid motion. I picked up the vase, dumped the half-ounce of water into my wine glass, and swapped them. I set the tainted glass down behind the silk orchid and picked up the vase. See, I said, dabbing at the spill with my cocktail napkin. It's barely anything. I'm just so shaky tonight. Must be the long week. Sabrina returned, her eyes flicking from me to the table. She seemed satisfied I was just dabbing the spill. Dylan laughed, oblivious. Well, relax, Mum. That's why we invited you. We wanted to talk about the future. Now that the startup is moving, we've been talking to a financial planner. I focused on blotting the red stain. Oh. Yeah. Just about planning. We're thinking about Lucy's future, protecting the family assets, you know. He swirled his wine. He mentioned something about optimizing taxes on the cabin, maybe moving the name into a trust or co-ownership, just to protect it for Lucy, down the line. There it was, the house, my house. Dylan, we can talk about that another time, I said, keeping my voice light. It's a movie night, remember? Right. Sabrina sat back down, her smile tight. Speaking of planning, Camille, I actually have those forms our lawyer drafted. She gestured to a leather satchel by her feet. Just a few simple things for us to manage your mail and banking if you ever travel. We could get them pre-signed tonight, just to get it out of the way. I'd rather not. Thank you, I said politely, folding the damp napkin. Paperwork requires my reading glasses, and I left them in the car. We can schedule a time next week, at my lawyer's office. Sabrina's smile didn't fade, but her eyes went cold. Before she could argue, Lucy ran in from her bedroom, holding a tablet. Mommy, look, I drew our new house. She held up the screen, showing a crude drawing of a brown cabin. See, it has a big backyard with a tire swing, just like Grandma's. I froze. My stomach dropped. Dylan looked at Lucy, his expression panicked. That's great, honey. But why don't you go finish your game? But you said... Now. Lucy. Sabrina snapped. I stood up abruptly. You know, I think that wine spill splashed on my jacket. I should use the restroom to blot it out. I also needed to get out of their line of sight. I walked down the short hallway, entered the bathroom, and locked the door. My hands were shaking violently now. I pulled out my phone and dialed Mr. Boone. He didn't answer. I hung up and sent him a text, my thumbs fumbling. Boone. Emergency. If I don't call you back in 30 minutes, come to Dylan's apartment. Unit 4B. Just ring the bell. I took 3 deep breaths. I couldn't leave the glass. It was the only proof. I opened the door and walked back out. Dylan and Sabrina were whispering intensely in the living room, and stopped the moment they saw me. All good? I said, forcing another smile. I picked up my large tote bag from the floor. You know, Dylan, I forgot I have trash in my bag from lunch. I'd hate for it to stink up your new apartment. I'm just going to run it down to the dumpster before the movie starts. Mum, I can get that, Dylan offered, starting to stand. Nonsense. I need the fresh air for a second. I walked to the end table. In one motion, I grabbed the cocktail napkin stained with the wine and shoved it into the nylon-lined pocket of my bag. Then, shielding my movement with the bulk of the tote, I snatched the heavy wine glass, my glass, the one with the dregs of water and poison, and dropped it deep inside the bag. I picked up the empty vase and put it back where the glass had been. I'll be right back, I said. I walked to the front door, my back tingling. I could feel Sabrina's eyes on me. I knew Dylan had installed one of his Loch Ness doorbell cameras here, too. I pictured Sabrina, in just a moment, rushing to the door, checking the camera log, watching me walk away, realizing I hadn't left to take out the trash at all. I walked quickly through the sterile hallway, down the elevator, my heart pounding a drumbeat against my ribs. I pushed open the heavy glass door to the parking lot. The cool night air hit my face. A dark SUV, one I didn't recognize, was parked in the fire lane, its engine idling. As I walked past, the passenger window glided down. I stopped, clutching the strap of my tote bag. A woman leaned over from the driver's seat. It was Marla Jensen, from shipping and receiving at Silverline. A woman I barely knew, other than to say hello to by the time clock. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with fear. "Get in, Camille," she whispered urgently. "Hurry. The texts were from me." I fumbled with the door handle, my tote bag heavy with the glass, and practically fell into Marla Jensen's passenger seat. The door clicked shut, sealing us in the quiet interior. "Marla, how did you know?" "I work the late shift sometimes," Marla said, her eyes checking the apartment building's entrance. She didn't drive. "I saw them. I saw you go in. I was at the Tilted Axe last week, grabbing a burger after my shift. Your son was there." My son. He was loud, bragging. Marla's voice was low, disgusted. He was with Todd Laramie. The name hit me. Todd Laramie. He'd lost his brokerage license 2 years ago for forging signatures on mortgage applications. Dylan was drinking. Marla continued. Celebrating early. He told Laramie he'd finally secured the guarantee, and that the old lady's signature was as good as done. He meant you. He was talking about your house. A cold dread, heavier than the wine glass, settled in my stomach. A guarantee. That's not all. Marla pulled out her phone. Laramie was there tonight. I saw him arrive 20 minutes before you. He met Dylan and Sabrina in the parking garage. I took this. She showed me a photo, grainy, taken from a distance, but unmistakable. Dylan, looking nervous. Sabrina, handing a small envelope to Todd Laramie. My phone buzzed again. A text from Dylan. "Mom, where are you? And Sabrina," Marla said, her voice even tighter. "I'm in a local Facebook group, Cedar Ridge Wellness Exchange. She was on there 3 days ago asking for strong herbal anxiety aids that weren't prescription. Someone recommended a Z-drug tincture. She bought it. I saw the post. Z-drug. I knew the term powerful, fast-acting sedatives, the kind that make you compliant, confused, the kind that make you sign things you don't remember. "Why are you doing this?" "Marla," I whispered. She looked at me, her face etched with a decency I hadn't expected. I had a grandmother. Her helpful nephew cleaned out her savings. I know what it looks like. My phone buzzed again. Sabrina this time. Camille. We're worried. I had to act. I had to buy time. My mind raced. "Thank you. Marla. Drop me at the corner. Not my house. Please." As she put the car in gear, I typed a reply. My fingers were steady now, fueled by a cold, clear rage. I sent it to Sabrina. "Thank you for a lovely evening. So sorry. My stomach just turned. Drove myself home. We'll talk about those forms soon. I'll try to sign them when I get settled if I have time." It was a moinou, a little bait to keep them from panicking, to make them think their plan was still working. Marla dropped me 2 blocks from my cabin. I walked the rest of the way in the dark, the gravel crunching under my feet, my tote bag clutched to my chest. I let myself in, locked the deadbolt, and immediately called Mr. Boone. "Camille," he answered, His voice instantly alert. "Boone, it's me. That dark pickup you saw. Was it a Ford? A Ford F-150, dark blue, almost black. Why? That's Todd Laramie's truck." There was a heavy silence. "He's been by 3 times in the last week. Camille. Always late. Never getting out." "Thank you. Boone, please keep watching." I hung up and went straight to my workshop. I took the glass, still heavy with the drugged wine and the stained napkin. I sealed them both in separate, heavy-duty Ziploc bags, labeled them with the date and time, and placed them in the back of my freezer. Evidence. Then, I went to my computer. If they were targeting the house, they'd target the bank. I logged into my email. At first, nothing. Then I checked the spam folder. There it was. An email sent 2 days ago from my address to Frontier Credit Bank. I hadn't written it. "To whom it may concern," it read. "Per our previous discussions, I am activating the power of attorney for my son, Dylan Hartley. Please find the attached forms and proceed." My blood turned to ice. They hadn't just tried to get me to sign a new one. They were already using the old, unsigned one. Or worse, a forgery. I remembered standing in Dylan's bathroom earlier that night, texting Boone. Sabrina's expensive leather purse had been sitting on the bathroom vanity, wide open. I'd noticed it because I almost knocked it over, tucked into an inner pocket. I'd seen a very specific pen, a heavy, silver-cased gel pen with a distinctive clip. The ink was a bright, almost electric blue. I'd seen that pen before. It was the exact pen Dylan had tried to get me to use to sign that power of attorney 8 months ago. Sabrina, I realized, still carried it. A legal weapon, ready to be used. I'd snapped a quick photo of it in her bag. I didn't know why. Then, I knew why now. I sat at my desk as the moon cast long shadows through my windows. They weren't just careless. They were coordinated. Dylan, Sabrina, and a disbarred broker. I looked at my evidence, the sealed glass and napkin in the freezer, the text messages from Marla, the photo of Dylan meeting Laramie, the photo of the blue pen, the fraudulent email in my spam folder, the doorbell camera log from Dylan's apartment, which I knew Sabrina would be checking obsessively. I could call the police. I could call Dylan and scream. No. They were trying to erase me, to make me a ghost in my own life. A confrontation would make them scatter, hide their tracks. I wasn't going to just defend myself. I was going to beat them. I was going to stay 1 step ahead, collect every piece of their plan, and dismantle it so thoroughly they would never threaten my home or my life again. The first thing I did the next morning, before the sun had even crested the ridge, was go to my workshop. I knelt on the cold concrete and spun the dial on my safe. My fingers, usually so steady with glass, fumbled. It opened. The deed was there. I pulled out the heavy cardstock folder. My breath caught. The cover, a dark navy blue, had a faint, tacky residue along the edge. Just a smear. But it was new. It felt like fresh glue. Someone had been in here. Someone had taken it out, probably photographed or scanned it, and put it back. They were sloppy. Or maybe they just assumed I wouldn't notice. My hands stopped shaking. This was a tactical error on their part. It confirmed everything. I put the deed back and locked the safe. My next move had to be precise. I went to my laptop and created a new, anonymous email address, a throwaway. From it, I composed a message to Dylan. I attached a PDF file. It looked like a scan of a generic power of attorney document, but I had intentionally misspelled residence as residence and listed the county as Boulder instead of Clear Creek. It was bait. I wanted to see if those specific, flawed details would reappear in a forged document they tried to use later. Then, I drove to my family doctor's clinic. I couldn't walk in with a baggie of drugged wine, but I could walk in as a 58-year-old woman asking for a wellness check, while the nurse was taking my blood pressure. I mentioned I'd been feeling dizzy and nauseated since last night after accidentally tasting a drink that smelled off. I asked if they could run a comprehensive toxin screen on a urine sample, just to be safe. They agreed. It wasn't the glass, but it was a legal, admissible first step to document that something was wrong. I knew I'd need a private lab for the glass itself. My next stop was Colton and Pike, a small law firm tucked away on the second floor of a historic brick building downtown. Rhea Colton's name had been given to me by a friend. Her specialty was listed on the door: financial abuse and estate protection. Rhea was in her 50s, sharp, with eyes that missed nothing. I didn't tell her my theories. I just laid out the facts. I gave her the timeline. I showed her the fraudulent email from my spam folder. I showed her Marla's photo of Dylan and Laramie. I showed her the photo of the bright blue pen in Sabrina's open purse. She listened without interruption. Her fingers steepled. "You have a digital evidence package, Camille?" she said finally, her voice calm and firm. "That's good. We need more." I watched as she drafted a list. "I want you to go to your bank, in person, with your driver's license and the original deed. Put a freeze on your accounts and a fraud alert on your property title. I want a digital export of the Loch Ness doorbell camera log from last night. If Sabrina checked it after you left, her phone's IP address will be on that log. I want your bank statements from the last 12 months. We are looking for any small, anomalous charges." "Should I file a police report?" I asked. "For the wine?" "Not yet," Rhea said, leaning forward. "A criminal complaint makes them lawyers up. It drives them underground. Right now. They're arrogant. They think you're a gullible old woman. I want them to keep thinking that. The best way to catch this kind of snake is to let it crawl all the way into the trap." Her advice was cold, logical, and exactly what I needed to hear. "We don't react, Camille," she said. "We prepare. Wait for their next move. They've poisoned the wine. They'll be impatient. They'll try something else, something faster. And we'll be ready." I left her office feeling a solid core of purpose. That afternoon, I sent another file, this time to Dylan directly. I pretended it was the official soft copy of the POA he'd asked for, the one I'd found on my computer. "Here's the one I think my old lawyer drafted," I texted. "Is this what you meant?" It wasn't a real document. It was a file embedded with a digital watermark, an invisible tracking ID. If that file was opened, downloaded, or, more importantly, uploaded to a bank's server, I would get a notification. I called Mr. Boone. I explained the situation, briefly. He listened, his silence that of a man who'd seen the worst. "That weasel Laramie," he growled. "If Dylan's stupid enough to try and sell that house, he'll need a buyer. I can be a buyer. Camille. I can be a guy from Denver with cash, looking for a quick mountain flip." The last piece fell into place with Marla. I met her in the Silverline parking lot. She was nervous, but resolute. "They're meeting Laramie again," she said. At the diner in Idaho Springs. I saw Sabrina check her calendar. How can you know where they'll be? Marla smiled. A thin, tight smile. You know that cute world's best granddaughter mug Sabrina bought for Lucy at the gift shop? I bought one, too. I put an AirTag in the bottom of mine, sealed it, and swapped it with the one in Sabrina's gift bag. That mug is in Sabrina's car. It's going everywhere she goes. Rhea was right. My urine test from the clinic came back inconclusive. Just trace anomalies. But the wine glass and the napkin I had frozen Rhea had sent a private lab courier for those the very next day. The report came back this morning. It was cold, clinical, and terrifying. Zolpidem detected. A Z drug, a fast-acting sedative. The exact kind of herbal tincture Marla had seen Sabrina asking about. The proof felt heavy in my pocket as I walked into the Pine and Steam Cafe. Sabrina had texted me just last night, her tone falsely sweet. Let's just clear the air. Camille? 10 a.m.? My lawyer friend finalized those simple forms. We can sign over coffee and put this all behind us. The cafe was loud, smelling of burnt espresso and sugar. I saw them in a back booth. Dylan was shredding a napkin, his eyes fixed on the table. He wouldn't look at me? Sabrina, however, was radiant, dressed in a sharp white blazer, that smart bracelet gleaming on her wrist. Camille, so glad you made it, she said, too brightly. I sat down. Dylan? He mumbled a hello. He's just stressed, Sabrina said, sliding a thick file folder across the table. The Alpine Lake investment is at a critical stage, and we just need this finalized to secure the loan. Sabrina, I told you. Dylan started, his voice strained. It's for Lucy. Dylan? It's all for Lucy, she said, cutting him off with a sharp glance. Her voice was pure steel under the silk. I looked across the cafe. In the corner, a man I'd never seen before was typing on a laptop, a mug of tea steaming next to him. He was Evan Pike, Rhea's law partner. He'd been here since 9, observing. I put my hands on the file. Sabrina, I'm not signing anything here. It's just a formality. Camille? My friend simplified everything. My phone vibrated in my lap. I glanced down under the table. A text. Not from Marla. The same unknown number as the night at the apartment. The file in Sabrina's briefcase has a counterfeit page with a watermark. Look for the county seal. It's fake. My heart hammered. I pulled the papers out. I didn't need my reading glasses to see it. The official seal of Clear Creek County on the signature page was slightly blurred, the color a fraction too dark. It was a scan. A bad one. I took a slow breath, remembering Rhea's advice. This is far more complex than you said. Sabrina, I'm going to have to take this home to my own lawyer. Sabrina's face changed. The bright, polished mask dissolved. You're not taking it anywhere, she hissed, her voice dropping to a whisper. It's simple. You sign, or you're putting your own granddaughter's future at risk. Why must you be so difficult? Her hand shot out, grabbing the file, trying to pull it back, and I saw it. I didn't even look at her face. I looked at her hand. Under the perfectly manicured nail of her right index finger, there was a deep, damning smear of bright, electric blue ink, the exact shade, the ink from the pen in her purse. I won't be signing this, I said, my voice as cold as the report in my pocket. I stood up. Dylan looked up, his face pale and sick. Sabrina was breathing hard, her eyes flashing with a pure, unadulterated hatred that stunned me. I turned and walked out. Evan Pike's eyes following me. As I got to my car, my hands were shaking. I texted Marla, just to be sure. "Thank you for the warning in the cafe. You were right." My phone buzzed a minute later. A reply from Marla. "What warning? I'm at the warehouse. Clocked in an hour ago. My phone's been in my locker." A cold sweat broke out on my neck. It wasn't Marla. Someone else was watching. Someone else was sending me those texts. I sat in the driver's seat, the key in the ignition, my mind spinning. Who my phone pinged again. A new notification. Not a text. It was an alert from the shared family cloud account, one Dylan had set up years ago for us to share photos of Lucy. I rarely checked it. A new file had been uploaded from Lucy's tablet. The file name was Movie Night, Practice, 4. My finger trembled as I tapped it. The video downloaded. I hit play. The video was 5 seconds long. The frame was shaky, aimed at the ceiling of Dylan's apartment. I could hear Lucy's voice, muffled. And then the princess. The camera suddenly dropped, pointing down toward the coffee table as she must have fumbled with the tablet. It was focused on the wine glasses. For 2 full seconds, before the video cut out, the lens captured a clear, undeniable image. The back of Todd Laramie's head. His arm was outstretched. His hand was open, hovering directly over my wine glass. And from his palm, something small and white fell into the dark red liquid. Lucy. She had been in the room, playing with her tablet, practicing making videos. And she had accidentally filmed the entire thing. I saved the 5-second video to a secure, offline drive, my hands cold. The innocence of it, Lucy just playing juxtaposed with the calculated malice of Todd Laramie's hand, made my stomach clench. This wasn't just about my house anymore. This was about my granddaughter being used as a prop in their toxic theater. I had to see if any part of my son was left. I texted Dylan one simple message. Lunch, the old diner. 1 hour, just us. He came. He looked terrible. His eyes were bloodshot, and he hadn't shaved. He slid into the booth and ordered coffee, avoiding my gaze. "You look tired, Dylan," I said, my voice gentle. "It's the startup," he muttered. "Long hours. I remember when you were little," I said, stirring my iced tea. "You and Mark were building that terrible birdhouse. You got so frustrated you threw the hammer, and he made you sit on the porch for an hour, just to think about why you were so angry." I paused. "He never cared about the birdhouse. He just wanted you to be honest about what you were feeling." "Mum, I don't. You used to make videos too," I continued, my voice still soft, conversational. "You had that big, clunky camcorder. You filmed everything. You even filmed Lucy the day she was born. You were so proud. You told me you wanted to capture every second, so she'd always know the truth." His knuckles went white as he gripped his coffee mug. "Kids are amazing with technology now," I said. "Lucy, with her tablet, she's just like you. She's always recording things. You just never know what a kid might see, what they might accidentally capture when they're just playing." I watched the color drain from his face. He didn't ask what I meant. He didn't have to. He knew. He pushed his coffee away, untouched, and his whole body began to tremble. I had planted the seed. Now, I had to see what Sabrina would do. That evening, I went onto my social media. I took a photo, not of the drugged glass, but of a different one, a beautiful, amber-colored wine glass from my own cabinet, catching the sunset light from my workshop window. I posted it. set to friends only. The caption was simple. Sometimes, the most beautiful things can hold the darkest secrets. So glad I trust my gut. I added a vague hashtag, new beginnings. It took less than 10 minutes. My phone rang. Sabrina. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. Sabrina. I let it go. A third time. A fourth. Then the text started. Camille. This is childish. Call me. We need to talk. An hour later. A new message. Her tone had changed completely. Camille. I think we got off on the wrong foot. Dylan is just so stressed about this Alpine property. I've been thinking, we should set up a Lucy's trust. A real one. We can put the cabin into it, and you can be the executor. It would protect her. It's what we all want. Let's meet tomorrow and sign a real partnership. The desperation was rolling off her in waves. The social media post had panicked her. She wasn't offering a truce, she was offering a bribe, another, more elaborate trap. I ignored it. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was an audio file from Mr. Boone. I pressed play. The audio was scratchy, recorded from inside his pocket, but the voices were clear. It was Dylan and Todd Laramie. Mr. Boone had accidentally run into them at the hardware store. It's taking too long. Todd. Dylan's voice was high, panicked. She's suspicious. Relax. Laramie's voice rumbled. The buyer's ready. He doesn't care. As long as you're on the co-ownership papers, we can do a quick sale. Just get her signature on that co-ownership transfer. Get it, or we're all screwed. Co-ownership. That was the new play. I immediately forwarded the file to Rhea. Her reply was instant. That's the ball game. I'm filing the Ellis pendants right now. It was a legal warning, an emergency order filed with the county court that would cloud the title and make it impossible for anyone to sell, transfer, or borrow against my property. The trap was closing. My next stop was Lucy's elementary school. I wasn't there to make accusations. I simply went to the front office and met with the principal. I told her that due to a complex family matter, I needed to update Lucy's authorized pickup list. From now on, I said, the only people authorized to take Lucy from school are myself, Camille Hartley, and my son, Dylan Hartley. I made sure Sabrina's name was explicitly removed. I was building a wall of protection around my granddaughter, one legal brick at a time. That night, as I was double-checking the locks on my cabin, my phone lit up. The anonymous number. They're done waiting. Sabrina just scheduled a private showing of your house with Laramie's buyer. This Saturday, 2 p.m. She told him you'd be gone for the weekend. My house. This Saturday. While I was gone, I smiled. It was the first real smile in days. Come on in, I whispered to the empty room. I spent the next 2 days preparing. I called a locksmith and had every single lock on my house changed. The deadbolts, the sliding door, the workshop. Then, I reinstalled my old smart lock, but I didn't connect it to my main account. I enabled the guest pass feature, setting up a temporary access code I knew Sabrina had used before. I wanted a clean, undeniable digital record of her using it to enter my home without permission. Finally, I set the stage. I was a warehouse manager. I knew inventory and surveillance. I installed 2 new, tiny digital cameras. One was tucked into the spice rack in the kitchen, aimed at the counter where they'd likely spread out papers. The other was in my workshop, aimed directly at the safe. They were motion-activated and recorded to a hidden hard drive. It was all legal. This was my property, my home. And on Saturday at 2 p.m., I intended to let the snakes walk right into the cage I had built for them. I wasn't gone for the weekend. I was parked 2 streets over in Ria's car, watching my own phone. Ria sat in the driver's seat, calm as a statue. A county sheriff's deputy, a tall woman named Evans, was in the car behind us. At exactly 1:58 p.m., my phone lit up. A notification from the Smart Lock app. Guest pass access granted. "They're in," I said. I opened my laptop and tapped into the live feed from the kitchen camera. The audio was clear. "See, I told you the code still worked," Sabrina's voice said. She walked into frame, followed by Todd Laramie and, right behind him, Mr. Boone, who was playing the role of the eager cash buyer perfectly. "It's a beautiful cabin," Boone said, his voice gravelly. "But you're sure she's ready to sell? The listing isn't even public." "My mother-in-law is sentimental," Sabrina said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. She was wearing thin, disposable latex gloves. "As co-owner, I'm just expediting the process for her. She's not well. This is what's best for the estate." "Co-owner," Ria whispered next to me, a grim smile on her face. "That's fraud, plain and simple." We watched on the feed as Sabrina led them through the living room and toward my workshop. "The real value is in the land." "Of course," she was saying. "And the deed is right in here." My laptop screen flickered as I switched to the workshop camera. There she was. She walked straight to my workbench, knelt, and began spinning the dial on the safe. The camera in the corner captured her profile perfectly. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text message. It was from Lucy. "Grandma, Mommy is in your house. She looks mad. Daddy is in the car and he's crying. I'm scared." My blood turned to ice. Dylan was there. He had brought his daughter to the scene of the crime. He was letting her sit in the car while her mother committed a felony. "They're all here," I said to Ria, my voice flat, holding back a rage that was suddenly intensely personal. "Dylan and Lucy are in the car." "It's time," Ria said. She nodded to Deputy Evans. We drove the 2 blocks, pulling into my driveway right behind Laramie's dark blue pickup. Dylan, sitting in the driver's seat of his own car, saw us. His head snapped up, his eyes wide with pure animal panic. I saw Lucy in the passenger seat, her small face pressed against the glass. Ria, Deputy Evans, and I walked to the front door, which Sabrina had left ajar. We entered just as Sabrina swung the heavy door of my safe open. She was reaching inside, her gloved hand closing around the folder containing my deed. "Sabrina." My voice cut through the quiet of the workshop. She froze. She turned, her face a mask of disbelief that quickly curdled into fury. Todd Laramie looked like he'd seen a ghost. "What are you doing here?" Sabrina shrieked. "This is a private meeting, you're trespassing." "This is my house, Sabrina," I said calmly. "And this," I gestured to Ria, "is my attorney, Ria Colton. And this," gesturing to the uniformed officer, "is Deputy Evans." Todd Laramie didn't hesitate. He shoved Mr. Boone aside and sprinted, barreling out the front door. "He's getting away," Sabrina screamed. "I've got his plates. Camille," Mr. Boone said, not even breathing hard. He just stood by the door, a solid, immovable object. "Sabrina Hale," Deputy Evans said, her voice full of authority. "Step away from the safe." I'm the co-owner. I have a right to be here, she yelled, clutching the forged co-ownership papers in her other hand. She pointed at Boone, is our buyer. I am the sole owner of this property, I said, my voice quiet, but carrying. I did not authorize anyone to enter my home, and I did not authorize anyone to open that safe. Show me your co-owner documents, ma'am. Evans said. Sabrina, realizing the trap, tried to stuff the papers into her satchel. I'll show them to my lawyer, not you. Evans was faster. I'll take those as evidence, ma'am. She took the file. And I'll take the satchel, too. Inside, in plain view, was the bright blue gel pen and another set of unsigned power of attorney forms, this time with a scanned, pixelated copy of my signature printed at the bottom. The front door burst open again. It was Dylan, his face white. Sabrina. What's going on, Lucy? Lucy is crying her eyes out. He stopped, his eyes landing on me, then Rhea, then the deputy. The fight drained out of him, replaced by a crushing, visible shame. I walked past him. I walked right out the front door to his car. I opened the passenger side, and Lucy practically fell into my arms, sobbing. I was scared. Grandma. Mommy was yelling. I know. Baby, I whispered, holding her tight, my back to the house. I know. It's okay now. Grandma's here. It's all over. You're safe. I kept my voice calm, shielding her from the wreckage, focusing only on her. I would not let her be traumatized by this. Behind me, I heard Dylan's horrified, broken whisper. Oh my God. Sabrina. What did you do? I heard the deputy's curt voice. Sabrina Hale. I'm citing you for criminal trespass and suspicion of felony fraud. You'll be required to come to the station. Mr. Laramie is already being invited to join us. I just held my granddaughter, stroking her hair, and stared out at the trees, refusing to look back at the son who had let this happen. The 72 hours before the emergency hearing were a blur of cold, sharp preparations. Rhea's office became a war room. When you are in front of the judge, you state facts. Camille. Rhea instructed me, her voice devoid of sympathy, which is exactly what I needed. You do not guess why they did it. You do not talk about betrayal or feelings. You talk about the lock. You talk about the email. You talk about the safe. You state, I did not give permission. You let the evidence speak for the rest. We sat in a sterile conference room for the initial petition. It wasn't a trial, not yet. It was a hearing for the temporary orders. Sabrina was there, her face pale and pinched. She had a new lawyer, a slick man in a suit that was too expensive for Cedar Ridge. Dylan was there, too. He sat separately. When the judge asked for his position, he stood up, his voice cracking. Your Honor, I have a significant amount of debt. From the Alpine Lake investment. I kept it from my mother. He looked at me, just for a second, his eyes hollow. Sabrina. Sabrina said this was the only way, that it was just paperwork to secure a loan. I never agreed to any of it. He's throwing her under the bus. Sabrina's lawyer hissed. I just want my daughter to be safe. Dylan finished, his voice breaking. She's with a friend. I don't want her to be around this. I consent to any order that protects my mother's property. I want to make sure Lucy is okay. Then Rhea presented her first exhibits. The county lab reports had come back. They were definitive. Your Honor, the analysis of the cocktail napkin provided by my client from the night of the initial incident, shows trace amounts of zolpidem, the same substance found in the wine glass, which the county lab confirms, a Z drug, used as a powerful sedative. The judge, a no-nonsense woman named Alvarez, read the report, her brow furrowing. As she read, my phone, resting on my lap, vibrated. I'd given the anonymous number to Ria, who had passed it to her investigator. A new text came in. "It's me." The text read, "I'm the bartender at the Tilted Axe. My name is Alex. I saw Laramie hand your daughter-in-law a small, dark glass vial. She paid him in cash. He told her 2 drops is all it takes. I thought it was drugs. I didn't realize it was for you until I overheard them talking about the old lady's cabin a week later. I've already spoken to your lawyer's investigator." The final piece. The source of the poison. "What does your client want?" "Ms. Colton," Judge Alvarez asked, looking at me. Ria stood. "My client requests 2 immediate actions, Your Honor. First, an emergency. Non-expiring protective order on her assets, specifically the property at 414 Forest Ridge Road, barring any transfer, sale, or loan against it. And second, we request an immediate review of child welfare for her granddaughter, Lucy Hartley, to ensure she is not exposed to further criminal activity or emotional distress." Sabrina's lawyer shot to his feet. "Objection. My client is the victim here. She was preyed upon by Todd Laramie, who misled her about investment opportunities. She denies any intent to harm. This is a family dispute, not a criminal matter." Ria simply placed her digital evidence bundle on the clerk's desk. "We submit, Your Honor, a log from the defendant's own smart lock, showing her accessing my client's home with a guest pass she was not authorized to use. We submit the download logs from the watermarked PDF my client sent as bait, showing it was downloaded 3 times to an IP address registered to Sabrina Hale. We submit the security footage from my client's home, showing the defendant, in gloves, opening a private safe. We submit the affidavit from Mr. Boone." Boone's statement was read into the record. It was 2 sentences long. "I heard Sabrina Hale tell Todd Laramie she was a co-owner and that all she needed was the power of attorney to get it done. She said it was easy." "And finally," Ria said, her voice dropping, "we have a 5-second video file, time-stamped, taken from Lucy Hartley's tablet, clearly showing Mr. Laramie dropping a substance into my client's wine glass, while Ms. Hale and Mr. Hartley were present in the room." A heavy silence fell. Sabrina looked like she'd been struck. Her lawyer was speechless. Judge Alvarez's face was grim. "I've seen enough. A decisive hearing on the permanent orders will be scheduled for 72 hours from now. In the interim, a temporary restraining order is granted. Sabrina Hale will not come within 500 yards of Camille Hartley or the property at 414 Forest Ridge Road. All parties are barred from contacting the petitioner. This court is notifying Child Protective Services to conduct an immediate wellness check on the minor, Lucy Hartley." The temporary restraining order was the key. With it, Ria had the legal standing to unlock Pandora's box. I sat in her office and signed a limited, specific power of attorney. It didn't grant access to my assets. It granted Ria the authority to hunt. She immediately subpoenaed Frontier Credit. What she found, buried in their pending queue, was worse than I'd imagined. It wasn't just the fraudulent email. It was a live loan application, a bridge loan, for a $100,000 deposit on Alpine Lake property. It was sitting in their system, active, just waiting for the final, authenticated e-signature from me. The signature I was supposed to provide while drugged and confused. The bank, now facing its own liability, cooperated fully. Their IT department provided the metadata logs for the application. The IP address used to submit the initial forms was a perfect match for the IP address registered to Dylan and Sabrina's new apartment. Ria then cross-referenced this with the tracking alert from the watermarked bait file I had sent Dylan. "And here it is," Ria said, her voice grim but satisfied. "Downloaded 3 times from their home IP, uploaded to the bank's portal 30 minutes later." They hadn't even tried to cover their digital tracks. They assumed I was an analog woman in a digital world. They were wrong. Ria didn't stop at the bank. She used the official county lab report on the Z drug to open an inquiry with the Department of Health. "We're tracing the source of a non-prescription scheduled substance," she told them. It didn't take long. Using Marla's tip about the wellness Facebook group, they found the seller, terrified of being charged, provided a complete transaction history. And there it was, a digital receipt. Sabrina Hale, using her own name, purchasing high-potency herbal sedative tincture for $45. She had paid using a cash app linked directly to her checking account. While Ria collected the arrows, I fortified the walls. I went to the county clerk's office and filed a property fraud alert on my name and my address. From now on, any attempt to file a lien, a transfer, or a new deed against my property would trigger an immediate, automatic alert to my phone and to Ria's office. Dylan's break came 2 days before the hearing. His lawyer, a court-appointed defender, contacted Ria, faced with the video, the bank fraud, and the reality of Child Protective Services interviewing Lucy. He had completely fallen apart. He agreed to testify against Todd Laramie. He admitted to the gambling debts associated with the investment that had driven them. The court, in response, recommended he enter a mandatory financial recovery and gambling addiction program. He wasn't doing it for me. He was doing it to save himself and to have any chance of seeing his daughter again. Ria and I prepared for my final statement. "What do you want, Camille?" she asked me, blunt as always. "Do you want them in jail?" I thought of the poison, the lies, the gloves, the safe. But mostly, I thought of Lucy, her small face pressed against the car window, watching her family disintegrate. "I don't want anyone to go to jail just to make me feel better," I said, the words tasting strange and clear. "I want safety. I want the truth on the record. And I want my granddaughter to grow up in a world where she doesn't have to watch adults hurt each other over money. I want the house secured, and I want them away from me." The night before the hearing, Sabrina's new lawyer made a frantic call to Ria. He offered a settlement. "My client is willing to pay damages, a significant amount. Let's just withdraw the petition and settle this as a family." Ria's reply was cold. "No, we are not settling. We are setting a precedent. The county needs to see what financial abuse of an elder looks like, and we're going to give them a textbook example." In the courtroom, the air was thick. Sabrina sat straight-backed, her lawyer whispering in her ear. I knew their strategy blamed Todd Laramie, paint Sabrina as a desperate, misguided wife, and deny any knowledge of the drug. Ria called her first witness. "The petitioner calls Marla Jensen." I saw Sabrina relax, just slightly. She leaned over to her lawyer. "Marla, the co-worker." She must have thought Marla was the anonymous texter, our only source. Marla was excellent. She calmly described seeing Dylan and Laramie at the bar, and she provided the screenshots of Sabrina's post in the wellness group. But you didn't send the warning texts to Ms. Hartley, did you? Rhea asked. No, ma'am, Marla said clearly. I was at work. I didn't even know about the wine incident until later. Sabrina's head snapped up. Her eyes darted to me, her brow furrowed in genuine confusion. If not Marla, then who the petitioner calls Alex Riley? Rhea said, a young man in a crisp shirt I didn't recognize walked to the stand and was sworn in. Mr. Riley, Rhea began. Where are you employed? I'm the head bartender at the Tilted Axe. He was the texter. Can you identify the defendant, Sabrina Hale? Yes. He pointed directly at her. She came in about 2 weeks ago, on a Tuesday. She met Todd Laramie in booth 4. And did you witness a transaction, Mr. Riley? I did. I was clearing the table next to them. I saw him slide a small, dark glass bottle across the table. I heard him say, 2 drops is all it takes? I heard her talking about her mother-in-law's house and getting the paperwork signed. It felt wrong. I found her name on the credit card slip, looked up her family, and I found Ms. Hartley. I sent her a warning. The final hearing was packed. Judge Alvarez presided, her face unreadable. The room was tense, the air static. Rhea didn't make an opening statement. She just began. Your Honor, the petitioner submits the following evidence in full. One by one, the exhibits were projected onto a large screen for the court to see. First, the Loch Ness log, a clean, undeniable timestamp, guest pass access granted, Saturday, 2 p.m., linked to Sabrina's phone. Second, the video from my kitchen camera. Sabrina in latex gloves, her voice clear, claiming to be a co-owner because her mother-in-law was not well. Third, the Z-drug toxicology report from the county lab, matched against the Cash App receipt for the herbal sedative Sabrina had purchased. Fourth, the digital watermark report, showing the file I sent Dylan was downloaded to his IP, then uploaded to the Frontier Credit Bank portal 30 minutes later. Finally, the 5-second video from Lucy's tablet. The court watched in silence. The file had been processed to protect the minor, so Lucy's face was blurred, her voice distorted. But Todd Laramie's hand, and the white object falling from it into my wine glass, was perfectly, horrifyingly clear. Sabrina's lawyer stood. Your Honor, this is conjecture. My client was sold a simple, legal herbal remedy for anxiety. Any mix-up in the substance is the fault of the seller, or Mr. Laramie. There was no intent to harm, only to calm a difficult relative during a stressful. Is the petitioner's toxicology expert present? Judge Alvarez cut him off. A man in a lab coat was sworn in. Dr. Pinter, can you speak to the substance found? Yes, Your Honor. It was zolpidem, a Z drug. The amount detected in the wine glass, though diluted, was significant. It would not calm someone. It would induce confusion, drowsiness, and a severe impairment of judgment and motor reflexes. The lawyer sat down. Rhea's next witness was Todd Laramie. He looked haggard. Rhea had made him a simple offer: testify truthfully, or face the full weight of a conspiracy to commit fraud and poisoning charge alone. Mr. Laramie, Rhea said. Whose idea was the sedative? Laramie wouldn't look at Sabrina. She came to me. Sabrina. She said her mother-in-law was stubborn and wouldn't sign. She asked if I knew a way, any way, to make her more cooperative. to get her to sign fast. So it was not your idea. No, it was hers. Before Sabrina's lawyer could cross-examine, Dylan stood up. His own lawyer put a hand on his arm, but he shook his head. Your Honor, he said, his voice thick. I knew. I didn't know about the drug, not for sure. But I knew she was trying to get the signature. I knew it was wrong. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a shame I no longer cared to analyze. I was a coward. I agree to any order. Don't let this touch my daughter. I will not contest any of my mother's claims. He sat down, a broken man. Judge Alvarez looked at Sabrina. Anything else from the defense? Sabrina's lawyer just shook his head, defeated. The judge surveyed the room. I have made my decision. The room was absolutely silent. First, a permanent injunction is granted, protecting the petitioner and the property at 414 Forest Ridge Road. All purported power of attorney documents or co-ownership filings related to this case, signed or unsigned, are declared void. Second, this court finds sufficient evidence of criminal action. I am referring the complete files on Sabrina Hale and Todd Laramie to the District Attorney's Office for prosecution on charges of conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, and assault by poisoning. Third, a permanent restraining order is issued. Sabrina Hale is to remain no less than 500 yards from Camille Hartley and the aforementioned property. Finally, the minor child, Lucy Hartley, is placed under immediate child welfare supervision. All visitation by either parent will be scheduled, controlled, and monitored by a court-appointed supervisor to ensure the child is not exposed to any further conflict or manipulation. Sabrina just stared. Then she started to laugh, a high, thin, breaking sound. No, you can't. This is my life. She's my daughter. You can't. She lunged forward, trying to get past her lawyer toward the bench. Two bailiffs instantly stepped in, blocking her path, taking her firmly by the arms. You can't do this, she screamed. Todd Laramie just sat, his head in his hands, as an officer motioned for him to stand. I watched them take her from the courtroom, her voice echoing down the hall. In the sudden quiet, I stood. I walked to the petitioner's table. Lying there, in an evidence bag, were the items retrieved from Sabrina's satchel on the day of the arrest. My old gate card and the original front door key to my cabin, the ones I had given Dylan for emergencies long ago. Rhea nodded to the clerk. The bag was opened. I calmly reached in, past the blue pen, and retrieved my key and my card. I held them in my hand. Then I placed them on the solid wood table. I didn't need them. The locks were already changed. It was just a symbol. The final closing of a door. The main courthouse doors opened at the end of the hall, and a bright rectangle of afternoon sunlight spilled onto the polished floor. I turned away from the table, away from Dylan, who was now weeping silently, and walked toward that light. I didn't look back. That night, I was in my workshop. The air was cool, smelling of flux and pine. I ran my hand over the surface of a new window I was building. It was a complex pattern, full of jagged, sharp-edged pieces of blue and green and deep, blood-red glass. My hand moved over the leading, feeling how the separate, broken shards were coming together, locked in place, finally forming one strong, complete, and beautiful picture. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Please drop a comment below and let me know where in the world you are listening from. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this, Please subscribe to Lily Revenge Stories, like this video, and give it a little extra support by hitting that hype button so more people can hear it.